Veterans in Politics International Interview. I'd like to call this interview process to order. At this time, I would like to invite to come to the center stage Tony Baca for the invocation.
Good morning, everybody. Bow our heads. Lord, you are a great God. Your Bible declares, your word declares that you never change. You are the great I am. And Lord, you are a loving and gracious God. And we come together this morning to thank you. And also call upon you to give us the wisdom to ask the right questions. We pray for those that are coming today, that, Lord, their heart would be exposed and shown for who they are, Lord Jesus, good or bad. That those voting or for them or against them might see clearly what their intentions are. Lord, you are the light of this world, and we pray that you bring all things to light today. Lord, I pray for those that came this morning that you would bless them because they love this country that you have blessed. Father, those that may be hurting this morning, having headaches or situations in their life, please relieve those, lift them from them, and heal them. We need that. We need you in this country. And all of us this morning desire that, and thank you. We just praise you today and dedicate this time to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. And I would like to face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd ask Patrick Castle to please lead us in that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Castle. Please have a seat. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all the sponsors. Without their support and generous donations, this may not be possible today. Scott Bromley, owner of Rhythm Kitchen Restaurant. Jim Wheeler, Nevada State Assemblyman. Tony Abatangelo, former Justice of the Peace. Ron Q Foundation. Stephen Ross, Las Vegas City Councilman. George Carson, owner of AllTalkRadio.net. Kevin Wall, Battleborn Radio. Mark Engel, owner of Nevada Legal Forms and Tax Services. Annette Levy, Clark County District Court Judge candidate. And if we missed your name, thank you for your support. Just remind me and I'll clean that up. My name is Joseph Sacento. I'm Justice of the Peace Department 2. I'd like to thank you all for being here and welcome you all. Today, our interview panel consists of, I'm not sure if they're all here, but I'll read off the names that we have. Karen Spielman, VIP Auxiliary Director. Mike Edwards, U.S. Marine Corps, President, Bandidos Motorcycle Club. Tim Patara, U.S. Army Veterans of America. Rowena Cripton, founder, Shrine Family Foundation. Len Connell, Radio Short. I'm sure that's close. Because of the light today, I know.
Depende, boss.
Robert Faust, U.S. Army. Jason Stoffel, Nevada Attorney. Scott Afada, Nevada State Director of Citizens for a Better American Super PAC. Ron Quelle, owner of Ron Q Foundation. Fred Conquest, Executive Director of Citizens for a Better America Super PAC. John Moore, U.S. Army Nevada State Assemblyman. Patrick Castle, Radio Show Host. Thank you very much. Our panelists today for State Assembly Department District 12 is Mark Riggins and Tony Ethan Warren. I remind you today, this is an interview, not a debate. redirects are not allowed. You have 30-second questions and 1 minute to answer. If additional time gives, we will ask anybody who's here, who's not on the panel, you can also ask questions. That being said, are you ready to begin? You may go first.
Introductions. Allow them each
The candidate introductions.
Why don't we start with the introductions today? If you'd like to make a speech about who you are and your position. Mark Riggins, we'll begin with you.
I'm Mark Riggins. I am a retired educator, and I work as a financial advisor. I'm also on the board, the executive board for the Republican Party. I'm a trustee, and I've been working with the party for some time. I've also worked in education. I was on the negotiations committee with the negotiated contract with the school district. So I have a bit of experience in education, and I'd like to use that experience in order to make some of the systems better, both in education and in other areas.
Thank you very much. Troy Ethan Warren.
Yes, sir. My name is Troy Ethan Warren. I am a native of this great state of Nevada, great native of the district that I live in. I actually live next door to the house I grew up in, so I'm very well versed with what's going on in my district. I'm also running education. It's my big thing. I'm really tired of what's going on, and I caught myself criticizing who would actually be sitting up here and running for office and those that were in office. So I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that guy that come up here and speak for people, because I'm a graduate of this school district. My girls are graduates of the school district, and I have hundreds of family members of graduates of this school district. The other part of this run for office is how we got ripped last time, small business in particular, with the margins tax. You can call it whatever you want. It was a margins tax, and that's the reason why I'm in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First question.
Okay, this is for both candidates. Voter fraud has been notoriously rampant in the state of Nevada for quite a while. It's been mostly engendered more with the use of voting machines. As a assembly person, would you vote to go back to paper ballots and prohibit the use of easily rigged voting machines in the elections?
Mr. Riggins, if you want to respond.
I've not really looked into the issue of going back to paper ballots, but one thing that I have looked at is the current rules that we have concerning the use of the voting machines. There is no central authority. When we find a problem with a voting machine, we don't have a central authority where that is noted. We don't know that there was a machine that they had problems with previously. There's no record of that. So I think that one of the things we need to do if we're going to continue using those machines is we need to have a central reporting authority for any irregularities in a machine. We need to be able to report those immediately. It's being tracked so we know when there's a problem with machines, and we can make sure that we're not using machines that are defective. As far as going to paper ballots, I haven't actually considered that. It's something I would be willing to look at, but I don't really know about it without having studied a little bit.
Thank you very much. Mr. Warren?
Yeah, I would go back to paper ballots, and I'll tell you why. I get technology, especially in my field. I'm a mechanic for 33 years. Technology's here to stay. I get that. However, sometimes I believe we as a society, especially here in America, need to take a step back. Until we can get those things that my opponent just talked about put in place for the technology, I definitely believe we should go back to paper ballots.
Thank you very much. Mr. Castle.
With education being very important, Common Core, etc., how do you see turning Nevada around from being one of the worst educated states and improving it dramatically?
Mr. Riggins?
Both of us, both.
Yeah, I understand. So we'll just go Mr. Riggins.
Well, there's a number of things that we can do, and a lot of them don't really involve money. One of the things that we can do, and it's not really a thing that you normally would hear from a Republican, but expand the areas of collective bargaining. Currently, collective bargaining is only primarily for benefits and pay, but expand it towards improving the learning environment. I can give you an example from the recent negotiation session. The union proposed changing the collective bargaining agreement so that they could be moved forcibly by the district into areas that had a disproportionate number of long-term subs. There was a review journal article that said one school, which was predominantly minority, had 14 long-term subs, whereas other schools had none. And by being able to move teachers, permanent teachers in there, keeping a student from being able to have only subs the whole time, that would have greatly improved the education in those schools. It would have done no benefit to the teachers, obviously, because they didn't really want to go there, but that would improve education. And one thing to keep in mind on that negotiating committee, even though we always use the negative word, union, they're all teachers. Those are classroom teachers that sit there to negotiate, and they really care about the kids. That's the one thing they all have in common. And they can make things, and that's one thing we can do.
Thank you. Mr. Warren.
So you brought up Common Core. It has to go. One of the biggest problems that I see right now is, teachers are teaching tests. So my thing is, let's go back to the way it used to be. When I graduated high school, there was shop, there was auto shop, there was wood shop, there was metal shop, there was home economics, there were all kinds of trades back in the schools. Now, we have some specific high schools that handle that now. However, I think it needs to be brought back into the schools. The way it's done now, everything's compartmentalized. So when I say teachers teaching tests, so we're doing math, we're doing science, we're doing, some history. A lot of history is not out there anymore. But the problem is a lot of the kids, they're not understanding, why do I need to know math? Why do I need to know science? There's no connection to a career, and we're losing these kids in middle school. We're losing them in middle school. Now, I agree with some of the stuff my opponent says about the teachers. Union, I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's more in the way than it is, it's a hindrance more than it is a help. And I think we need to get it back to the parents and the teachers and the business community and get it out of the hands of the federal government and pretty much at the state level.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
Tim Pitaro, this question's for Mr. Warren. Given education being one of your main issues, how would you tackle political correctness in our curriculum, given history standards changing or just the quality of what they're learning, the actual subject line?
Politically correctness, there's the term. I don't know how to battle that. I know how to battle it in my personal life because I'm not politically correct. I'll tell you where to go, when to go, and how to get there. And if you don't like it, tough. We're in such an offended society today. Grow some skin. My whole thing around that would be from the top down. We need to have a conversation about what's politically correct and what's not. Bathrooms being one of them now. I'm a firm believer. If you're a dude, you go in the dude's room. If you're a woman, you go in the woman's restroom. But I'm being called bigot because of that deal? I don't know how to battle PC because it's so rampant right now. The only way I know how to battle it is to just battle it and take it on. And if you get offended over it, too bad.
Thank you.
Next question, please.
This is Scott Lofato with Citizens for a Better America. This should be a simple answer for both of you, either yes or no. What is your position if you're presented, let's say you get elected, and you're presented with a bill to vote yes or no for campus carry? Mark, we'll start with you.
Of course, the details are the key thing, but overall, if we're talking about campus carry on colleges, then yes, I would be in favor of that.
Yes.
That's simple. All right, let's move on to John. Assemblyman Moore.
Hi, folks. Assemblyman John Moore. My question is for both of you, and try and be as brief as you can. What do you see as the biggest problem, or the biggest issue, I should say, facing our state today that you would be able to influence?
Let me ask Mr. Warren to answer that one first.
Well, that's a loaded question. For me, it's education. Like, there's a lot of things on the front end that we need to fix. However, if we don't tackle the long-term issue of getting the education system turned around so these kids understand that are growing up that the government's not the answer, that they are the answer, they have the solutions for what's going on, and quit looking to the government, that's my biggest thing, education. We have got to get to the core root of what is going on in our education system and get our kids educated and get them out there becoming productive members of society and not leeching off of it. That's where I'm at.
Mr. Riggins?
Although education is one of my biggest issues, I think one of the things that we really need to address in our state right now is we're very friendly for larger businesses, but the micro businesses with 5 or fewer employees, which is 95% of the businesses that sets us on tough tracks, we're not very friendly to them. We have high licensing, we have high startup costs that are imposed by the state and lots of regulations. I think that if we will work on that, we will greatly improve our economy. And if you can raise families out of poverty, it will greatly help their education. Anyone in education sees that. Poverty is a big factor in how well students do. So I think we should start working on making the business environment for micro businesses, 5 or fewer, and the smaller businesses in general, make it friendlier for them so we can create jobs and put more money into our economy.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Next question. Mike Edwards, United States Marine, President of Banditos Motorcycle Club. Lately, there's been a lot of stuff going on in the city with bikers and bikers' rights, and lots of no colors policy in all of these places, where maybe one person has gone in, or even the police have gone in and threatened these restaurants and establishments with, their liquor laws, or sending the health department in, and it happens down at the Leatherneck all the time. They stood up for our First Amendment, who we decided to ride with. Even today, a gentleman comes up and, they asked something about something. He's like, "Oh, it wasn't you, it was your buddy over there." It was talking about you because you own a Harley Davidson T-shirt. He thought we were all of a sudden friends. So they associate all of us together, and with all the LGBT and the racial stuff going on, we're getting grouped. And now I think the bikers are becoming second-class citizens. Whether you're military, most of us are veterans. I ride with people that are lawyers, that are very well-known businessmen in the community, and what can we do? We're not allowed on the strip. We're not allowed downtown. And some people, have committed crimes or are bad people. But the police and the politicians are the first ones to go, well, don't judge a few of us or all of us by the actions of just a few.
Right.
So I would like to know what your thoughts on that are. Getting out. I do charity events. I do fundraisers all the time. I did the Rally for Your Rights. That was my event. I put that on. So the people that were there, they understand what we're about, but the common citizen does not.
All right, let me start with Mr. Warren on that one.
So this one pretty much hits close to home because I'm a biker. I've been a biker. I've been riding since I could walk on the street since I was 16. I agree with you. Where we start with that is at the top level with the sheriff. We have to sit down and have a conversation with the sheriff, and he has to understand you can't lump us all in. They don't want us lumping all of their officers in when something goes bad with an officer. I've talked about this a lot, biker rights. I wanted, some of the things that I want to, there's some legislation I'd like to bring into this state for bikers. I think that's the biggest thing, is we're going to have a conversation with the sheriff, and how that conversation is going to take place and how it's going to look to get to that place. I don't know, because I think he's pretty closed off to the stuff right now, just based on what he's doing or not doing, I should say, in the city currently. On the other side of that, we as bikers, we've got to band together. I don't personally, I hung up my colors in 2001. I won't wear a color anymore, but I thoroughly encourage that if you want to wear a color, if you want to patch up. But just know, if something goes down, sometimes all bets are off, because you said it best. If you walk in and one of your club members goes south.
Sorry, you have to wrap it up 5 seconds.
It doesn't look good for all of us.
The VFW gets punished for that.
No,
gets punished for that. Everyone.
No, I understand that.
Let me,
I understand things.
Mr. Riggins, would like to answer that?
Well, I know that I've never had colors before. I'm ridden motorcycle, but nothing to speak of. But I've known a lot of people. We had a group out of my church that was a group of bikers that would go around and they would do positive things. They would reach out to people. They would try to help change their lives. And there's many, many bikers who've done that. They've been model citizens. They've been people who are examples to our community. And to lump everybody into one fell swoop is just not right. We need to try to get the message out and communicate to the businesses, because in some cases the businesses are the ones that are doing it. In that case, we need to talk to the businesses. If it's the law enforcement, conversation needs to be made about not discriminating against a group of people based on the clothes they wear, based on the vehicles they drive. That's not right. It's no different than basing it on the color of their skin or on their religion. We need to have that conversation and let them know that what doing that is wrong. And I think that's the start.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
All right, this question is for Mr. Warren. Mr. Warren, how will switching from the Independent American Party to the Libertarian Party help you get elected in District 12?
You know, I've been asked that question a lot, and a lot of it has to do with party support. When I ran as the Independent American Party, I received little, if none, support. Matter of fact, the Independent American Party were quick to endorse people in races where there was not an Independent American Party person running for that office, and neglected to endorse their own people. After my election, a few things happened in my election, and I didn't understand the numbers because it was the first time on that side of the wall politically. And Brett Jonas kept talking with him. I received several phone calls. Brett's the one that stepped up, and and here's the day. Libertarians, I agree with probably 99% of what goes on, because I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm running as a libertarian, but the truth is, I'm just an American that's fed up. And so it comes down to the support. Like we've got people, we're going to go start knocking on doors. Like I couldn't get any support from the IAP, so that's why.
Thank you. Next question.
Good morning. My name is Ron Hugh. This question is for Mr. Mark Wiggins. Since you've been a trustee of the Republican Party, what would you think the Republican Party will help you during this upcoming election with the Republicans Party overall, because we're lack of leadership?
I am not really certain that, in terms of the support that I'll get from the Republican Party, it will probably be through friendships that I've made and people that I know. Several of the people at the table here I've met and I know through the Republican Party, and I think they will help. Right now, I don't know how much support that the party itself is going to be able to give. Hopefully that will change. We've got a new board that's really working together, and I think we'll start to make the party more relevant. But up until now, pretty much it's been mostly going in there to serve and try to do the right thing. It hasn't been anything where there's any real benefit that you can see coming back.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Len Connell, this is directed to both of you. Want to talk about compensation reform of public employees. It's become very fashionable in America at every level for public employees to hire competitive compensation consultants to teach them how to maximize their pay for work not done, similar to the way the Wall Street bandits did a couple of years ago. The average public employee in the state of Nevada makes 2 times what the average private employee, and I'd hate to think of what that would be compared to business owners. Some of the things that people have talked about is leveraging sick days that have not been used, longevity pay, and a lot of compensation carrots that were put in the mix 40 or 50 years ago when Nevada was a one-horse town that didn't have air conditioning, and they were trying to incentivize people to leave beautiful Southern California to come out and work here. So basically, how do we fix this scheme so rank and file employees, I believe around 15 to 20 of them, rank and file people walked away with $1 million paychecks. The highest paid state employee is a medical doctor teacher at the Reno Medical School that teaches doctors how to do boob jobs, which is probably good for our economy, you know. But for both of you, you know, it's probably one of the best things they could do, you know, in this state, you know. But in any way, what would you do to reel that in?
All right, Mr. Riggins, if you can answer that first.
Well, one of the things I've already been talking to people trying to get some support for is something that's done in other states, and that is to cap your pension, public pension, at 110% of their pay that they've made, of their base pay. Because a lot of times where you get the really high payouts is where people will, it goes on your last 3 years or your last 5 years, and so in those times they'll work as many overtime hours as humanly possible to raise up their pay to a multiple of what they made while they were working. So that would be the first thing. And then the second thing I think we should address is somebody who is working, has retired, and they go back to work for a PERS-related business, and they're still drawing their retirement as well as getting paid. I think that they should not be getting their PERS retirement while they are working and paying into PERS again. So that's something we could address there too.
Mr. Warren?
So the second part of what he was talking about is a big thing for me. They retire, they have a great benefit package, they're making all kinds of money, and then they go back in and they're paying in PERS again. I think that absolutely that needs to stop. The other thing is, and I'm not going to lie to you, I do not like unions. I was raised in a union family, but I think unions have just gotten wacky these days. One of the things that I see we need to do is we need to go back into the PERS and we need to tear it apart. And one of the things that I have brought up and caught a lot of crap for is the sick leave and the vacation time, how it accrues. Personally, I think you need to use it or lose it. I go back to work on Monday. I had 8 vacation days. If I didn't use it, I lost it. Why? Because I work in the private sector. Why should I, as a taxpayer, why should you benefit from the taxpayer as a state or a government employee just to accrue that stuff so you can get a lump sum of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, some checks I've seen, just because you didn't use your sick leave? It should be to use it or lose it, and I think that's a good place to start. But we need to get into there and tear that PERS apart.
Next question, please.
Good afternoon, or good morning. My name is Robert Faust. This question would be for both of you, and we'll start with Mr. Riggins. Where do you stand on women's right to abortion, and would you defund Planned Parenthood?
I would defund Planned Parenthood, and I would defund it for a number of reasons. The statement that they provide other health services, there are other organizations that provide those health services that aren't as controversial. And so I would not support them because of a number of the things that come forward about them, as we're all seeing with the videos and such that's come out. For me to talk about abortion is kind of hits kind of personally because I'm adopted, and every information that I have indicates that my natural mother was a teenage girl who was most likely raped, and so I'm kind of the poster child for abortion. Everyone says that I'm the one that should be terminated if anybody else should. So personally, I don't see us as having a right to terminate one person's life due to the actions of their parents, which is effectively what abortion is. One or more of their parents did something, and now you're terminating their life. And I don't see us doing that. I don't think that is the proper thing for us to do. I don't know what you can do at the state level because it's a federal issue, but I'm definitely not in favor of abortion.
Thank you, Mr. Warren.
On the record, I am pro-life. I don't believe in abortion. However, as an American and what this country is founded on, your right to choose trumps that right. And while we sit here as Americans and pass laws for abortion, against abortion, it's a morality thing. And once again, we're tapping into something. How do you legislate morality? You know what? The woman and the man that's involved, if there's a man involved in the decision, you know, that's between her and her God or whoever, whatever she believes in. Now, would I have a conversation with her if it came up? Absolutely, I would. And I would do everything in my power to sway not to. But the woman's right to choose, we're a country of choice. And legislating morality is not in my forte. Because, you know what? I'm not a woman. I'm not here to make her decisions for her. But I am pro-life. Thank you.
Would you defund Planned Parenthood if you could?
Pardon?
Would you defund Planned Parenthood?
Yes, I would.
All right, next question.
Rob Larry, U.S. Army. This question's for Mr. Riggins. I didn't see on your website your position on the commerce tax. Did you support it last time? And if it came up for a vote, which it may very well, to defund it, to reverse it, would you vote to defund it and reverse the commerce tax? And if you don't, why not?
If you're talking about just the commerce tax, that portion itself, then no, I don't support that. I don't like, one of the things that it has in there is it does penalize the small businesses a bit, which is one of the things I really wanted to change. So that I would vote in getting rid of the commerce tax if it came up to the legislature to do that. I did not oppose changing the funding for education because I realized one of the things that I saw was that we were probably going to be hit with a lawsuit from the ACLU over our funding. And based on the records that I could see, being part of the negotiating team and seeing the different things that were done in the district, I don't think we had any chance of surviving that lawsuit in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals where we ended up. And so I felt like we needed to address the specific areas of funding which they did, not increasing general funding, but specific things that would help protect us from the potential of a federal lawsuit. But the commerce tax itself, that's not something I think was I think that was not a good way of doing things.
Thank you. Last question.
Jim Jonas, radio show host for Veterans in Politics. This question is going to be for Troy Warren. Troy, there's been a lot of push lately to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. A lot of people were in favor of it. If you're elected, how would you go about starting a conversation with the public that it's not, in fact, the minimum wage that needs to be increased and mandated by the state, but what we need to do is get a more educated workforce so that we have more people with more skills that can say, hey, I'm not going to work for $9.50 an hour. I'm going to go work for another corporation that's going to pay me $17 an hour. Well, right now, in the state, with the level of unskilled or the amount of unskilled workers, unfortunately, companies can take advantage of that and say, hey, if you're not going to work for $9.50 an hour, I got 10 people behind you that will. If elected, what could you do to have a conversation with the public to say, hey, it's on you, it's not something that should be mandated by the state?
It falls back to the whole personal choice thing and getting yourself educated, and it falls right back onto the education system in this state, locally, statewide, federally. That conversation is going to have to take place with the parents and the teachers so we can get this education stuff turned around. Have a conversation with them, bringing back the trades back into all high schools so we can educate an employable workforce. Because here's the truth, not every kid's going to college. Not every kid is college material. You know, and we need people to fix your cars, fix your motorcycles, fix your house and your plumbing, build your house, fix your swimming pool. We need those kind of people, and there's a market for that. And I don't know what all of you gentlemen do. I've had a great living as a mechanic technician. I call myself a mechnician because there's a tomato in that. I've had a great life. I ride great motorcycles. I have a beautiful wife. I've raised a great family. I'm being a tradesman. And that's that conversation that needs to take place. How the conversation got started that, would you like fries with that, is a career choice, blows me away. But that's the conversation we need to have. We need to have a conversation about that is not a career path, that is a starting path, and that we need to get the stuff back into it falls back on education, and that's where I would head and
go in that direction.
Thank you.
We have a little over a minute left. Is there any questions from the audience? We can entertain one question. Anybody here would like to ask a question? All right, I didn't see you over there. Yes.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Karen Stillman. I'm the Auxiliary Director with Veterans in Politics, and I'd like to get both of your take on the ownership of land, federal versus state versus private, and if you could weigh in on the incident with the Bundy Ranch and how that relates to land ownership. Thank you.
All right, let's start with Mr. Reagan's on that one.
Well, I think that the land, as far as the public lands, I think that the state should be the one that controls the majority of the public lands. I don't see the federal government owning the majority of our state as appropriate.